Hey guys, welcome back. I am very behind, not on my reading, but talking about the books that I have read. I keep meaning to film as I'm going along and it never happens. I just keep forgetting. So I have finished the 3 books that I had previously talked about, Under the Dome. I think last time in the last video I was about 75% of the way through it. I have finished it. And for as long as this is, it was fine. Again, it's like with Stephen King, a lot of times it is hit or miss, and then the rest of them are just kind of 3-star reads. That this one, for as long as it is, I just don't feel like it was really worth the time and effort. The scary stuff is more kind of the mob mentality and people grasping for power, the wrong people getting the power, using it against everyone else, becomes very like a tyrannical town. That stuff is very unsettling. And I've mentioned before, I can't remember in what video, but that's kind of the things that scare me or make me feel the most uncomfortable, is more mob mentality stuff, because it does happen so often, and you think about how easily society could break down and get to that point, how there's so little between you and that. It's very effective in that it makes you feel very uncomfortable, but it's not the type of horror that I prefer. I really like that he does the creeping dread, but I prefer more kind of supernatural monster horror. I just don't like to feel like I've given up on humanity, which is how most of his books end up going. So yeah, that one, it wasn't, it was fine. It wasn't that great. Next book is kind of the opposite. This is one that I got simply because of a book club I had joined, and that is Project Hail Mary. I think last time I said Hail Project Mary. I'm gonna try not to mess up the name. This is the first Andy Weir, I can't remember how you pronounce his name. Best known for The Martian, probably. I saw the movie, but I did not read the book. I'm really not that passionate about sci-fi. Typically sci-fi will get a bit too sciencey, a bit too technical for me, and I'm just not interested in that aspect of it. This, however, was such a good freaking book. I like this so much more than I thought I was going to. It does get very sciencey, it does get very technical, but it's always in an interesting way. And the heart of the story is very emotional, actually. So we focus on Ryland Grace. He is I can't remember if it's middle school or high school. He's a science teacher. He used to be more in academia, but he wrote a paper and the whole scientific community was like, this is ridiculous, you're a fake, or all your ideas are stupid, or whatever. And he didn't take that rejection very well, so he kind of secluded himself. He teaches this high school, we'll say it's this high school. And he's a funny guy. One thing that the author does, I'm guessing by, again, I didn't read The Martian, but based on the movie, is he makes these really learned scientific men like really passionate and really geeky and really funny, that I absolutely love. Like when you think about a scientist, you probably go into like a very like, oh, they're very straight-laced and they're very serious. And I love that he doesn't make his protagonist that way. So Ryland Grace wakes up in this spaceship, has amnesia, doesn't remember why he's there. Little by little, his memories start to come back to him, and he recalls that things back on Earth are not going so great. So the scientists discovered that the sun is starting to dim, and all the stars in the galaxy or near it are also starting to dim, and it's got this sort of pattern where like one infects the other. So whatever sun or star is closest to it, that one will also start to dim, and it's like this domino effect. But there is one star in the galaxy that this is not happening to. It seems to be immune from it. So to try and figure out what's going on with that one particular star, Earth kind of gathers all the scientists, all its resources together, and sends a spaceship to that star with a few select scientists. And supposedly Ryland Grace is one of them. His other two scientists are no longer living, so he is now all alone in space, and he quickly finds out that this is a suicide mission. This is a one-way trip. There is not enough fuel for him to get back to Earth. So while grappling with that and his slowly returning memories, something starts to happen in space, and this other ship, this weird looking ship, kind of alights right next to his. And I'm saying this because this happens fairly early on. This isn't a spoiler, but Ryland Grace is not alone in space, and he meets an alien whose planet is also being threatened by these like microorganisms that are eating up the sun. And the two have to learn to communicate, and there's this very sweet relationship that builds between Ryland and this alien, and I was not expecting it to be so emotional. You learn more things, you kind of go back and forth in time. You learn more things about the purpose of the mission and the scientists back on Earth and what really happened to get them there, and it's interspersed with Ryland and the alien. What did he call him? What was his name? Oh gosh, why can't I remember his name? Rocky. Rocky is a spider the size of a dog, and he is so sweet and he's so earnest, and he's like the engineer of the other ship, and all his crewmates also died. So there's lots of like side missions. Things go wrong, things break, they have to fix them. They're trying to send down these kind of probes to this alien star to see what's going on, to see if they can harness what's going on and bring it back to their planets. And it was so good. It was such a quick, fun, easy read in a way I was not at all expecting. I had heard really good things about The Martian, but I know one of his other books, I think it's called Artemis, was not as well received, so I wasn't sure how I was going to like his writing, but this was fantastic. I am so glad that I joined a book club that chose this, because I probably would not have read this otherwise, and I really want to read The Martian now. So this one, not that great. This one is fantastic. So I'm just gonna do this all in one video because I want to. I also read Ignorance. Let me go grab that. That was also for a book club. So this was the book that I had mentioned before in the last video, where they had it during that like 103-degree heat wave, and I was like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna go. I did not go. I totally copped out. I went on the website that they keep it in, and I'm like, I'm sorry guys, I'm not gonna make it. It's way too hot. I can't do this. So yeah, this is like a translated workbook club. So this is translated from French. Short book, also really good. Beautiful, beautiful, like melancholy, sad writing where you felt the things that the characters are experiencing in the book, but it's like I hadn't witnessed those things being put to words necessarily like they were here. This is really a book about emigration. These two people, a man and a woman, Yusef and Irina, who leave the Czech Republic. And again, it's this like very melancholy kind of wondering about where you are in life and how you ended up there, and how easily, if you made a few other choices, you could have had a completely different life with completely different people in a different place, and it's how you relate to your homeland, all the good and the bad that comes with that. And there's this inability to fully understand someone else's life and someone else's experiences, but there is that kind of intense sense of connection when you meet the rare person who can relate to a small portion of that. So Yusef and Irina both left the same country and come back and visit it occasionally. It's quite difficult for them to feel what they think they're supposed to feel when they come back home. There's that lost sense of connection where they no longer consider this home, and they don't know people that they once considered family. It really frames and focuses on those small but understandable emotions that most people do share. Nostalgia for your youth as time goes by, and how memory doesn't always correlate with reality, and sometimes we imagine that the past was better than it was, sometimes we imagine it was worse than what it was. Your inability to go back. The author's writing also doesn't really follow like a specific formula. He pauses and goes on these kind of like side quests whenever he deems it necessary. So he spends a lot of time like ruminating on the Odyssey and on the specifics of grammar, and like some random characters you might hear a chapter or two from and then never kind of return to them. The grammar thing was right at the beginning of the book, and I'm not gonna lie, like the first chapter I was like, oh, I'm not gonna like this at all, because it was very much like I felt like I was back in high school or back in college getting some type of like English lesson. Once he skips that portion of it, it was very good. It's a very sad book with kind of dreamy writing, which I quite enjoy. A lot of times I kind of correlate that to books with like magical realism in it, which this one does not have, but it kind of takes on that same familiar quality. Yusef and Irina both fled from Czechoslovakia when the Russians invaded. Irina, I believe, emigrated to France, and Yusef, I believe, traveled to Prague. So my idea of this book going in was that it was a sort of a romantic relationship between the two of them. However, there are a few times that they both meet in the book, but the majority of the book focuses on their separate lives. And it's only on a few occasions that they actually will see each other and come in contact with each other. Now, they had met many years ago, I can't remember how much, but many years ago at a restaurant. I think everyone was like having drinks, and Irina remembers him and approaches him many years later when she randomly sees him, saying, oh, how are you? It's good to see you. We should get together while we're both back home. And he agrees, but he has no idea who she is. It's very much a rumination on returning to your homeland, your original home, even though you no longer consider that a home, and the mixed emotions and the complications that brings for both yourself and the people in the past that you left behind that still reside in that homeland, and the feeling, just like the feelings of abandonment sometimes that can come up, and the feeling of no longer belonging to a people or a society or a country that helped to raise you. It's a very complicated book, complicated in its feelings, but very simple in the way that it kind of dictates those feelings. The author I knew from, I hadn't read anything from him, but I knew from the Unbearable Lightness of Being, I think, which is such an amazing title. And I really wanted to read that, but seemed a little intimidating to me. It seemed like kind of highbrow literature. And I'm really glad I gave this a try, because it was so much simpler and easier and more relatable than I thought it was going to be. Sometimes with certain authors, I won't delve into their works just because I feel like it'll be lost on me, a lot of it, or it'll be more like work. But this one was great. I don't know about his other books, but this one was fantastic. So those are the 3 books that I recently read. I know I gave it to you guys like all at once, but 2 really good books and one that was just okay. I feel like I just need to give Stephen King a little bit of break. Like take a break from his books for a little while, and then maybe back to Halloween I'll really get into it. Because I was talking to a few people recently and I mentioned that I was reading a Stephen King book, and they said that they, really want to try some of his stuff, and I was like, The Shining, I remember that reading experience. That was one of the first books I read of his, and I think maybe that gave me like an unfair expectation of him because it was such a good book and I could not put it down. I think I finished it in like one sitting. There's been a few really good books of his, but a lot of them just I haven't connected to quite as much, which is fine. I mean, to be fair to the guy, he's written hundreds of books. I can't expect them all to be 5 stars. So those are the books that I read, guys. Let me know if you've read any of those, if you've enjoyed them, if they're on your TBR. Next month I do have a few more book clubs. I feel like I put some of my personal reading goals on a bit of a hold because I did just join randomly so many book clubs at once. I'm kind of catching up on those. But I will let you guys know in the next video how that's going. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for joining me. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, whatever it is when I end up posting this. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.